Welcome back in. Patrick Johnson's show. About a year ago, he took the job as the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, and it was about that time that we first spoke to Tim Pernetti, the commissioner of the AAC. Joins us here on the PJ Show. Tim, great to have you back on the program. It's now a tradition. We've had you on in June each of the last 2 years, so here we go. But nice to have you along for this go around. Hope all is well for you.
Everything's great. The year flew by. Yeah, this is a tradition now. So I guess we're going to be talking every June. I mean, we could talk more than every June, but let's keep the tradition alive.
Well, we at least want to have kind of that expanded convo with you. We've gotten you a couple times, as you know, throughout the year on some quick hit things. I was down in Tampa with the ECU for the USF baseball series to wrap up the year before the conference tournament, and it was when it was announced about the decision to move the basketball around, so we could talk about that. You were in Tampa recently with conference meetings and a pretty significant appearance and successful appearance on John Gruden's podcast. So we're not as big time as Gruden, but this is we're doing all right here in little old Eastern North Carolina. But look, let me ask you this: how did that come about? Because that was a really well received news making and pretty high profile opportunity for you and the conference.
Yeah, it really was. And I think like everything else that we've done since I took the role, I've encouraged our staff to like break glass and think innovative and do some things that maybe we hadn't traditionally done because the conference was run in a more traditional sense. But when you look at what Coach Gruden started to do when Barstool took him on and build out this platform, and then these unboxings are just they're genius. Like they're easy, they're cheap. He's able to create relationships with other coaches, which I think was really the intent. But one of our staff came to me and they said, we got to get a box to Coach Gruden. I said, I agree. I said, well, we're going to do I said, whoa, let's have a meeting and talk about it. Like we literally had a meeting. And then suddenly we sent out to our graphics company to have a custom box made, and we hit each school for an item so we could make it fully representative of the American. And then we're like, we
Sure.
need something different. And the different thing, I give my assistant Annie credit. She made this cardboard A, our logo. And she said, you write your note to Coach Gruden on the back. That way, when he takes it out, he's got to hold it up in front of the camera and he's got to read while he's
Yeah.
holding up the logo. And then the last piece was, how do we differentiate ourselves? And that's sort of been our goal for the last year. And that was like, hey, come flip the coin at the football championship. He called me when he got the box and left a message and said, and he doesn't, by the way, have a TV voice. His voice is his voice. Like, Tim, Coach Gruden, I got to tell you, this is the best box I ever received. And give me a call. And I called him. We were in Tampa for the annual meeting. He invited me up, and that turned into the interview. I was
Right.
not told what he was going to ask, but it was just a great conversation between two football guys talking about the American, talking about how do we fix college sports, talking about some of the things that have changed since he was in a locker room and culture and all that. And he's just got a huge reach. So it took on a life of its own. I mean, we've gotten more visibility for the conference, and each of our institutions have gotten great visibility out of it. So it was a huge win all around. Now, Coach Gruden's my buddy. He's coming to Media Day for football in Charlotte, and
Oh
he's
wow.
having a presence there. He's going to interview all of our coaches. Like it's going to be a great relationship for the American.
All right, so Media Day in Charlotte. Okay, this is interesting. What are the dates? Do we know the dates yet? Are we breaking a little news here?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe I am, but that's okay. I mean, all of our football coaches know we're going to Charlotte, but our plan is to be there on, I want to say it's the 25th and 26th. It's either
Okay.
25, 26 or 26, 27. It's coming right out of the dates of the ACC Media Day. So,
Okay.
the one thing about all the media days being spread out is, I got to be sympathetic to the media too. Like these guys kill themselves to get around. So our thought was like, hey, let's do it in a market that is in our footprint, but also gives media the ability to stick around for a day or two. That way they don't have to get on another plane to get to our media day. So Commissioner Phillips at the ACC, who's a close friend, and I spoke. And I told him we were going to build ours on the back end of theirs. And he made some connects in the market, and we got set up at the convention center, and we're all good. So we'll be doing it in Charlotte end of July. Our coaches are excited about moving it to a new location. And the city of Charlotte has already been a dynamite partner in helping us put together something that'll be really, really special.
So, a little breaking news there. That's exciting. Was there any consideration of moving the basketball tournament to Charlotte? Because I understand the need. You have to have a kind of a hub airport. Uh, was there any discussion of that, or maybe moving it to uh, somewhere more permanent rather than kind of rotating it around to Birmingham and then Tampa for a couple years?
And the thing, Patrick, about a permanent decision is when you're going into something new, like you want to have a little experience there and see if it's the proper fit before you make a long-term commitment. And our ADs and our leadership, we had several goals with the basketball tournament. The first goal is student athletes. Like you want to make it a championship level experience. And Dickies Arena in Fort Worth was a great partner to the American. It's a terrific building. But I think we made it more challenging for a lot of the league, given the footprint, to be able to attend it. And you'd also had two tournaments going on over 10 days. It was a lot of basketball and it was a lot, you know, that taxed the system and coaches and players and administrators. So goal number one was like, let's find a location where we can create a championship level experience. Let's find a local organizing committee that's really going to invest of themselves financially in marketing assets, to build a story and create a direct relationship with us 365. But when we cast the net to do the request for proposal, we talked to everybody. Charlotte was never really viable because there's not an unlimited number of venues in the city, and the ACC tournament is there. And the last thing we wanted to do was start to think about infringing on anyone else's turf, and we wanted to respect what the ACC is doing. But also, it had to do with: are there buildings there? Are there dates
Right.
available in those buildings? So a lot of it is just the logistics. But we went far outside the footprint too. We talked to Vegas. We talked to cities that are not in our footprint, that are more destination type places. Where we landed, I think, is the right place, because goal number two was our ADs want to keep the men's and women's tournaments together. And in order to do that, you have to find buildings that can commit more dates than just, 4 or 5 days. So I think Birmingham will be great. It's an easy drive for a lot of our institutions, which will make it better for fans. And then Tampa, I think Rob Higgins at the Tampa Bay Sports Commission and the folks at USF, like, they're nobody better in the business in events than that group. And I'm bullish on that one in particular. And we've committed for 2 years there. But, make no mistake, we talked to everybody all the way up to, Vegas to Philadelphia. We had a million conversations, but I think we landed in the right place.
Tim Pernetti is the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference. He joins us here on the Patrick Johnson Show. Tim, do you think in this day and age, and given the footprint of the conference, it does make sense to keep it perhaps on some kind of campus setting for mostly all the championships? Obviously, I think we can all agree the football with Army one being the participant, but also the host seemed to be pretty successful. There was a lot of enthusiasm for various reasons for that. And I certainly think, it will vary depending on where it's going to be held. But by and large, you stand a better chance to sell tickets and generate those images on television where it shows some excitement and fan engagement in the product. So is that maybe just the way of the world now? Because, holding it, I'm not saying the American, but just anybody holding it in a venue that is just partially filled with a lot more empty seats than people. It's not a great image, is it?
No, it's not. And I would just sort of put that aside for a second. Like, I do think the business side of things you have to focus on. Like, how do you create successful, business and profile around your league? Because, we're on ABC for our football championship. It's nationally televised. It's on Friday night. It'll be on Friday night again this year. You're unopposed for the most part. Like, you're taking people inside the double doors into your conference. So you want to have a good atmosphere. The thing to me about this, that would take football as the example, is like the way I was raised is like things are merit based. You earn it, then you should have some benefit for earning it. And I think in football in particular, if you earn the right to host the football championship, then you should have the opportunity to host the football championship. Because at the end of the day, is it fair or fairer to go to a neutral side? I mean, I think there are arguments on both sides. What I love
Sure.
about our football guys in our league is they believe in the merit based system. If I earn the right to host, I should be able to host and get the benefit of playing a home game. I think with basketball and others, like Birmingham is not going to be on their campus. It's going to be at their city arena at Legacy. In Tampa, we will be on the USF campus. Some coaches are on other sides of that, like, hey, it's a competitive advantage for the team that plays in that building. I don't totally buy that. But as far as other championships go, we do a lot on campus right now. And I think that more of them on campus where it's merit based, where teams earn the right to host. Like, I'll give you an example, volleyball, if you win the conference championship, then you get to host it, the next year. It's like Wichita won 2 years ago, the regular season, they get to host it. So the merit based approach is really what our league is built on. Like, it's a gritty, tough league. And I think people want to earn it. And when they earn it, they want to have a benefit for earning it.
I don't want to. This is important to ask you since I've got you. But there's a million things I want to ask. But obviously, the importance of baseball at East Carolina. There was discussion when I was down at Tampa, rumor mill that perhaps the event in Clearwater might be coming to an end sooner than later, and that was going to be re-examined. What can you tell us about the future and the fate of the baseball championships in Clearwater?
Well, I think you're breaking news now, or maybe even news that I don't know. But we haven't had a discussion about a discontinuation of the relationship in Clearwater. Like you said at the beginning, it's been my first year. I've just completed it. Like, I'm a year and a week on the job, but we are looking at every single one of our championships. I know because I get a lot of the messages and the posts on Twitter from a lot of the ECU fans about baseball in Clearwater, and I think there's a lot of opinions. What I do know too is that our coaches like it there.
Yeah.
They like our coaches in baseball are pretty strong-willed about the neutral site type of environment. The flip side is, I don't know that we are always creating a championship level experience. The other side of me is, and I'm always objective about these things. I went this year, I was there for the championship. I handed the team the trophy and all the awards and spent time with Coach Godwin. Terrific win for the Pirates. But it's a terrific building. It's got great amenities. They do a really good job. They value the relationship with the Americans, so they really invest in what we're doing of themselves. Having said that, we have some of the best baseball venues in America in this league. You look at ECU, you look at Wichita State, you look at Rice, Tulane, USF. Like, you can go down the list. We have a lot of great baseball venues in the league. So what I want to do now that the dust is settled is I want to spend some time with our coaches and talk to them a little bit more. This is never going to be a league, as long as I'm there, that's going to make these decisions in a vacuum. Like, I want coaches to weigh in. We had coaches weigh in on our conference tournament decision. We had them weigh in on how many teams should be going to the conference tournament. Like, this is a place where we want to make decisions on the best premise of what everyone feels is best for the league. But you got to know this too. You can't always make everybody happy, right? So at the end of the day, I'll have to make the decision. I'm not going to make it in a vacuum. We're going to bring our coaches into these things, and we'll see. But there is no imminent plan that I'm aware of to leave Clearwater. But every championship is under discussion for the future.
All right, Tim Pernetti with us here. With the state of where we are now, the big decision about a week ago of the House versus NCAA, how does that benefit institutions in the American? And then, just to be clear, what is the minimum commitment that everyone in the conference that are football playing members and full-fledged members have agreed to pay?
So, House, now that at least this chapter of the book has been completed and the settlement has been approved, we move forward. I have always been of the opinion that this is not going to solve the challenges that the industry has. Is it a small step in the right direction? I believe it is. But as you probably woke up and read this morning, there are already appeals and other lawsuits, contesting the settlement for a variety of reasons. Title IX, Olympic sports, capping earnings. Like, there's all these things that are now going to be out there coming across. I think for us, what I've tried to encourage the league to think about is we only control what we control. And in doing that, it's best to be prepared for the result instead of complaining about the result or worrying about it or trying to pray that it's not going to happen. So we put a minimum investment program in across the American. I love the fact that we were a first mover on this. It was innovative. It was different. I got calls from a lot of other commissioners asking questions about it. But the whole premise of this is, like, we don't view ourselves, I don't think anybody has illusions that we're an autonomy conference, but we don't view ourselves as a group of six conference. We feel like, based on performance, based on profile, based on our markets, we're sort of in a designation space all on our own, and we intend to do things differently. The minimum investment program signals the marketplace that we're serious about investment in student athletes and their experience. So all of our institutions agreed unanimously to invest a minimum of $10 million. And that will be sort of the starting point. My instinct from spending time talking to a lot of our institutions is that they're going to do more than that. And the beauty of this is we're getting everybody to a certain place, and then we're giving everybody the ability to do more above that minimum based on what they have the ability to do. But the message is clear. We're serious about investing in these benefits for student athletes because we want to attract great people, not just great athletes, great people to the Americans. We want to be able to provide what everybody else is planning to provide as well.
We're speaking to Tim Pernetti. I know we have limited time with you, but I wanted to take, again, advantage of just try to hit as many topics as possible. When you look at NIL, though, you say the next chapter. What would be the next chapter for NIL? Is there any appetite for any kind of guardrail, or is that just so legally problematic that right now it is what it is?
No, I think the industry is hungry for some more structure around NIL. And I said this when I did the interview with Coach Gruden. I told him this and enlightened him a little bit. Was we're talking about transfers and NIL, and I said, a lot of this stuff was loosened up during COVID. And some of it was done to respond to COVID, especially the transfer protocol, because they didn't want student athletes losing a year because they didn't have the ability to play. And we've seen where that's gone. So, like, starting with transfers, and I'll get to NIL, like, to me, transfers been around since the beginning of time. Like, I played with guys in college at Rutgers that transferred, and then you had to wait a year if you transferred no matter what. My sense is all the commissioners are in the same place, which is, can we reduce this to a one portal system in football? Like, find the right dates. I think maybe in the spring after spring practice, you have a transfer portal, and that every student athlete has the ability to have one transfer that has no consequence to it, and that the following transfer should have some consequence to it, whether it's they have to return all the NIL money that they took out of one school, or they have to have a year in waiting, or there's some impediment, not to stop them, but to get them to stop and think, is it really the right decision? So there's uniform. The U.S. There's an appetite. Everybody's hungry, for that type of change, and we're all uniform in the approach. We'll see where we get. On NIL, it's pretty simple. Like, I know there's a lot of people like, is the president going to get involved? Is there going to be a new commission? What is Congress going to do? I think what they can do effectively to help the industry is to set a national standard for NIL across all the states. Because what's happening in each individual state, legislators are modeling NIL legislation and or tax legislation for student athletes receiving NIL to create a benefit in their state. So for instance, some states have put it out there and said, if you earn NIL money in this state out of one of our institutions, you don't have to pay taxes on it. Well, guess what? You're creating a recruiting advantage. So if the government can come in and create a standardized baseline that the NIL legislation looks like this in all the states, I think that gives us the ability to build from that. And then second is we got to get kids better educated. Like, they're walking into bad deals. They're listening to the dollar signs instead of listening to who they're getting in business with. What does that brand stand for? Who are the people behind it? That needs to change. Like, we have a responsibility to make sure kids get educated and they're not walking in blindly to some of these relationships, which could impact them, quite frankly, for the rest of their life. At some point, the idea of a student athlete being designated in a different class and having the ability to organize and collectively bargain without being employees is something that needs to be explored.
Again, I appreciate your time greatly here. A year in, and there's 100 other things I wanted to ask you, but a
Well,
year
keep
in.
going. If you just keep asking them, let's go.
Well, no, we'll get reprimanded. We were put on a timer with you. All right, but I appreciate you saying that. The media deal. Where are we right now? I know it runs through a certain amount of time. Have negotiations started? What are you exploring as far as expanding that footprint? Obviously, I think ESPN Plus has become kind of a standard for sports streaming, although we see some huge platforms like Netflix and others getting involved, Apple as well. So, uh, how do you see the future of media distribution for television in the American?
I mean, if I could put one word on it, I would say vibrant. It's a great time to be a content owner and a content provider, like a conference or a league or a team, mainly because the marketplace is just so vibrant. There are so many more options than there were even 10 years ago. As far as the American goes, we have a long-term broad-based deal with ESPN that I inherited. The deal goes through 33. And we've got a massive linear commitment of games on, in all of our sports on ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU. And then we have a broad-based commitment on ESPN Plus. And what I love about what our league has done is we've pushed everybody to invest more in on-campus facilities and have the ability to be able to produce a game for linear television without bringing in a truck. The good news is several of our schools have already gotten to that point. So ESPN can come in and produce a game for big ESPN without a TV truck. And I think that gives all of our institutions an advantage to push for more linear exposure in that they can make a more cost-effective solution happen on campus without ESPN needing to roll a truck in. So as it relates to the future, our goal, and we've disclosed this to ESPN too, they know this, is to work with them to license some of our product through ESPN to other platforms. So we're starting to have a bunch of those discussions. I think it's our obligation as a league to make sure that we have broad-based exposure across multiple platforms. But ESPN is our primary partner. They own our rights. They've made a significant financial commitment to those rights. So we're working with them on what some of those sub-licensing type opportunities could look like in the future. Because at the end of the day, when you're building your brand, you want to have broad-based exposure. And if you look at the last series of media contracts, you see what the Big Ten is doing, right? Where it used to be about Fox and BTN, and now it's Fox and BTN and CBS and NBC and other conferences, the same thing. Like the days of one network owning everything, I think are coming to an end, but it's because the conferences need broader based exposure and the product has gotten expensive. So sharing that investment across multiple platforms, I think makes sense for everyone.
With the SEC and Big Ten pushing for designated spots in the college football playoff for their conference, across the board, we need to be guaranteed. What is your feeling towards that?
Well, my read on the whole thing, given the last couple of weeks where everybody had their annual meetings, is that it's not totally an accurate statement. I think where you saw the SEC come out and have a voice was mainly what their coaches said, which is that they did not support an automatic qualifier based system exclusively. And as it relates to other conferences and what makes sense for them, I think this is where we all need to be careful. Like I'm not going to get in the business of telling another conference how to run their business, and I don't want anybody telling me how to run mine. Like that's just the reality. Having said that, we all need to work together to make sure we make the best decision for the future of the game. And sometimes when you're in that room, it's like it's impossible to be objective. Everybody's thinking about their own enterprise, but our responsibility is to the game of college football. So I can tell you where we're at from our perspective. Like I can't speak for Commissioner Petiti or Commissioner Sankey. I think you've read the same stuff that I've read. Some are for that type of system, some are not. The idea of creating more regular season inventory to play into those games, I think that's an innovative idea because it creates more inventory that you could sell to your television partners and make more money. It keeps more of your schools in the hunt for longer in the season, which is probably better at the gate and better for television. Like I see it. But the reality is, it's not socially acceptable. I think our fans are not going to accept a, a program that doesn't provide people the ability to earn their way in. Like from the Americans' perspective, and I won't speak for the group of six, although I think they're aligned with this, we want to preserve our access to the playoff that we already have, and we want the ability to earn more. That way, in a year where East Carolina, right, is runner up in our conference championship game, and it's their only loss of the year, but is ranked in the top 15 in the CFP rankings, that they can earn an at-large slot. In an automatic
Hmm.
qualifier-based system exclusively, you take that out. And by the way, what do people love about the NCAA tournament? That anything is possible. Like you can't take the opportunity for people to earn their way in away completely. I don't think that that will be an acceptable place for fans, for the industry, and quite frankly, for coaches in college football. The fact that coaches are coming out saying, hey, the at large system is fine. Maybe let's think about expanding it so there's more at large slots, but let's let everybody play and earn their way in. I mean, isn't that what college football is kind of built on?
One would think, but there's a lot of money up for grabs. Okay. Again, thank you for your time. A year in, what is the
Yeah.
next thing that you want to accomplish short term, and then maybe if we're sitting here or when we are sitting here a year from now that you say, okay, we moved the football downfield on this?
So I think we've got a great opportunity in a few of our sports, and if not all the sports. But naturally, we have to be focused on football and trying to keep it healthy because it's big exposure. It generates the most revenue. It supports all the other sports in the league. I have a goal this year of making sure we produce the best conference basketball championship we've ever had. And when I say that, what does that mean? It means better attendance. It means better experience. It means feeling like a championship atmosphere for student athletes. Like their experience is paramount to me. So that's an important one. We announced the launch of American Rise Ventures, okay, which is what that is we've rolled up all of our commercial rights, sponsorship, licensing, intellectual property, media rights at the conference, and we intend to take that to market and generate more revenue that will get distributed to the schools so we can help them with all the challenges they have financially on the campus. So that's certainly a big one. And then private capital. I think the American has been a leader there. When I got the job last year and I had my press conference in April, I talked about private capital. And it was met with a lot of smirks and a lot of laughs and a lot of questions. A year later, everybody's involved in a process looking at taking outside investment to try to
Hmm.
figure out a way to improve their business or to make a bet on their value in the future. I'm proud of that. I think we led that conversation, but I have a goal of trying to get something done in that space this year, and that's a big picture. But listen, the last thing I would say, Patrick, is none of this happens without leadership. And like, while I get to have this job, which I feel lucky to have, I'm surrounded by a lot of great leaders. And since we're on in Greenville, President Rogers, our Chancellor Rogers at ECU, is the chair of our board for our presidents. He's agreed to stick in that position for a couple more years, which I'm thrilled about. He's been an unbelievable thought partner. He's a great listener. He has been able to move the mountains around when we've needed to, and he's universally well respected in our league. I think the world of him, and I'm thrilled he's going to be my partner for 2 more years on the board chair. And then John Gilbert, like he just served his last 2 years as chair of the ADs group. Same deal. Like these meetings are not easy to run. It's hard to build consensus. And John has been sort of like, a steady, even hand for me. He was involved in my interview process. I've known him a lot of years back to when he was at Tennessee. But the leadership at ECU, it shouldn't be understated how valuable that has been for me. And I'm excited about what they have going on. Like ECU may not be in a major market, but it's special there. Like it's different there. If you've been to a football game there, you know what I'm talking about. And I know they got the rematch coming up with NC State to open the season after they, kicked their butt in the bowl game last year, which was a lot of fun to watch.
Can we get you to Raleigh for that one? Can we get you into Raleigh? Will
Yeah, I
Phillips
can't
let you
listen. I
get in
don't
there
like
since
I
you
don't
guys are
like
buddies?
anybody I don't like anybody outside of my wife to know where I'm going, because sometimes people will seek you out. And I've had everything from the hugs on the road to, the half drunken beers thrown in my direction. But that one is tentatively on the board for me for sure. I think
Okay.
that's going to be a great
All right.
tilt, and I'm trying to get there for sure. So
We look forward to seeing you in Charlotte. I feel pretty confident we will be there with our operation. So that will
all right,
be
good. If you
that'll be
guys
a
are
fun
there, let's
time.
make sure we make some time. Okay.
Absolutely, will do. Commissioner, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.